In a mining colony prison, dozens of prisoners are forced to work every day while wearing a special gadget on their mouths that prevents them from speaking. A guard calls prisoner Kai to fix it. In just a few minutes, Kai gets the machine working again. Suddenly, the guards bring in a new prisoner, and everyone is shocked to see Hatch, the general who lost a civil war against General Lang. A former rebel stands up upon seeing his general, and the guard immediately punches him for it. The prisoner retaliates with a headbutt, throwing him to the ground and beating him with his chains. Sensing a riot coming, another guard activates the crushing pit, reversing it so that the chains around the prisoner's leg drag him toward it. The prisoner soon falls and is shredded to death in seconds. At that moment, Hatch gives a signal to someone hidden. Then, he teams up with the prisoners to overpower their captors. A guard uses the machine again to activate the other chains, causing more prisoners to fall into the pit to their deaths. Kai rushes to the machine and tries to stop the massacre. He grabs a fallen weapon and shoots the chain to no avail, leaving him no choice but to sacrifice a leg. While the chains drag his limb away, Kai hops back to the machine and finally stops it. A last guard tries to stand, and Hatch makes a gun gesture. Then Kai passes out. Sometime later, Kai wakes up in Hatch's ship and discovers he has been given a mechanical prosthetic. Hatch uses a device to remove the prison gadget from Kai's mouth and explains that he has been rescuing other rebels to rebuild his army and counterattack. He also reveals that he knows Kai's father, who used to fight for the rebellion. Unfortunately, Kai's father has been captured by General Lang and is set to be executed in a few months on the anniversary of Lang's victory. Kai must hijack an important enemy ship to retrieve confidential data. If he succeeds, Hatch will pick him up and use that intel to save his father. Kai agrees. In the middle of the trip, Kai wakes up early as planned and finds a computer to access the ship's records. Hatch, speaking through the radio, instructs Kai to simply plug in the device and let the gauntlet do all the work. As Kai downloads the information, a message pops up on the screen warning that the system will be vulnerable if he continues. Kai asks Hatch about it, and Hatch assures him it's only temporary and nothing to worry about, and that there is unstable electromagnetic activity outside. The interference causes the transfer to fail, and Kai loses contact with Hatch as the ship ejects all the escape pods carrying the sleeping crew. Kai rushes to the ship's shuttle just before it is expelled too and passes out upon crashing on the nearest planet. When Kai wakes up, he tries to contact Hatch but gets no response. He rushes outside the shuttle and sees escape pods falling all over the planet. However, he suddenly struggles to breathe and rushes back inside. The ship's AI, called Reef, warns Kai that the atmosphere is toxic and prolonged exposure may cause paralysis or death. Looking out the window, Kai sees the arrowhead slowly falling and asks Reef for a status report, but Reef requires an employee login. However, it does inform him that his oxygen supply is down to 12%. Suddenly, a crew member named Oleander sends a message from his pod, asking any survivors to meet at the crash site. Opening it, he finds Terran, shares his oxygen mask with her. At the shuttle, Terran logs into the system and grows suspicious of Kai. Reef scans for the arrowhead wreckage but cannot find it. However, Terran knows the escape pods will leave soon and insists they should find them before they are stranded. Kai follows her after failing to contact Hatch again. As they walk, Terran explains that they are actually on a moon. Eventually, they find a research probe, and Terran is surprised by how much the atmosphere has oxidized the metal. Moments later, they find the crashed arrowhead near a glowing obelisk, which Kai is certain wasn't there before. They discuss how to proceed since Kai knows he won't be allowed into the pods. Realizing Kai works for Hatch, Terran mentions that the general was a cruel man who raided colonies before the war, killing thousands of people. However, Kai insists it's all propaganda and returns to the shuttle. Taking the pilot seat, Kai asks Reef to activate the flying system, but Reef refuses because Kai isn't authorized. Instead, Kai asks for any updates on Hatch, and Reef plays a confessional tape. The video shows Hatch admitting to his crimes after losing the war, but Kai notices a strange gesture and wonders if the confession is fake. He asks Reef for more information, but it is classified. At that moment, Oleander sends a new message announcing that evacuation will begin in 30 minutes. Kai returns to Terran and agrees to leave with her despite the risk. Terran points out that his uniform will give him away, so he removes key parts of it while something watches them from the shadows. As they head toward the arrowhead, An earthquake suddenly shakes the area. Terran turns around in shock as Kai is dragged into a cave by an unknown force. She grabs his hands and tries to pull him out, but she isn't strong enough, and Kai is taken away. Terrified, Terran runs toward the arrowhead, but it's too late. The pods have already left without her. With no other options, she returns to the shuttle to rest. 4 days later, while exploring the area, she finds Kai's gauntlet and axe on the ground. Not far away, she discovers the glowing obelisk and Kai lying nearby, covered in goo. To her shock, his leg is completely healed. She takes him back to the shuttle and runs tests, discovering that he is now in a symbiotic relationship with an organism that healed him and made him immune to the toxic environment. Reef keeps trying to offer information, but an annoyed Terran shuts it up, reminding it to speak only when prompted. When Kai finally wakes up, he explains that he doesn't remember anything except that he was asleep. He feels heavier but otherwise fine. Deciding to investigate the obelisk, Kai strikes it with his axe and discovers that it is actually a soft cocoon. Inside, they find Oleander's body covered in goo. They carry him back to the shuttle, and when Terran touches Oleander's face with her bare hand, he starts twitching. Kai pulls out some wires, bringing the scanner outside, and scans Oleander's eyes, finally gaining access to the flight system. Kai immediately starts prepping the engine while asking Reef about Liberation Day, learning he still has 76 days before his father is executed. Terran is shocked when Kai refuses to bring Oleander along and realizes she knows Kai. He used to work for her father when she was a child. Outside, Oleander suddenly awakens and vomits. Kai and Terran rush out to check on him, but Oleander starts yelling about Hatch coming to kill them all. He picks up a gun from the ground, and Kai immediately jumps to punch him just as he fires. Oleander is knocked out, but when Kai turns around, he discovers Terran has been shot and is dead. Enraged, he starts beating Oleander but suddenly freezes as he realizes he's been shot as well. His body starts writhing before he passes out on the ground. Sometime later, Kai wakes up near the obelisk, perfectly healed. He sees mysterious lights flying in the sky and rushes back to the shuttle, shocked to find only the skeletons of Terran and Oleander. Upon entering the shuttle, he discovers the engine failing and asks Reef for an explanation. It turns out he has been missing for 34 days, during which the engine was left running and eventually burned out. There are now only 42 days left until Liberation Day. Reef also reveals that while Kai was gone, curious, Kai explores the caves and notices footprints in the sand. When he reaches out, his hand glows like the obelisk, so he decides to turn back. Over the next few days, Kai searches for crashed pods, salvaging parts to fix the engine. He also retrieves Terran's ID badge. Reef plays cartoons for him while he works. One night, Kai wakes up to a strange sound. Suddenly, unbearable pain surges through his body, and Reef detects an alarming heart rate. Kai stumbles out of bed but collapses in agony, accidentally breaking the repairs he had been working on. Reef warns that he may do worse and advises him to leave. Kai flees to the cave, where he hears the eerie noise again before a terrifying monster emerges. When Kai wakes up, he is covered in goo again and returns to the shuttle. Frustrated, he punches the engine, mentioning Liberation Day, desperate to save his father. But Reef informs him that he slept for too long. Liberation Day happened 2 days ago. Overcome with grief, Kai collapses outside, accepting his fate of being stranded forever. 3 years later, Kai is still surviving on the moon. He has trained his body, learning to stop the transformation before it fully takes hold whenever he gets injured. He still sees the mysterious lights in the sky. One night, he notices something glowing inside a helmet and gets excited. Bringing it outside, he releases a firefly, which joins others in a dazzling light show. Returning to the shuttle, he finds footprints outside and realizes Terran's badge is missing. He discusses the situation with Reef, who shares a theory. Oleander has the same symbiotic relationship as Kai, meaning he is still alive but trapped in his monstrous form. Reef believes that death is now a part of Kai's life cycle. Their bodies die, but their consciousness is reborn in new replicated bodies. When Reef suggests Kai self-delete so it can study his body for a cure, Kai refuses, arguing that his revival isn't guaranteed. Determined, he searches for the Oleander monster, and is horrified to find one of his own dead bodies. He brings it back to the shuttle, using it as bait. When the monster approaches, Kai emerges and finally shoots it. As distant roars echo, he cuts off a piece of the creature and brings it to Reef, who scans it and confirms it contains Oleander's DNA. Reef cross-references past events and realizes that the roaring occurred each time Oleander or Kai died, suggesting something out there reacts to their deaths. It sounds like a mother mourning her young, possibly triggering the revival process. Kai struggles to understand, not being a biologist. Reef mentions Terran, prompting Kai to authorize access to her records. Reef plays a recording from the night of the shooting, revealing that Terran had only been unconscious, not dead, and escaped after Kai died. The skeleton he found earlier had been his own. Furious, Kai confronts Reef for keeping this secret, but the AI reminds him that it can only share information when asked. With renewed purpose, Kai resolves to find Terran. He salvages parts from the shuttle and constructs a body for Reef to follow him on the search. After wandering, they reach the caves where Reef attempts to scan the tunnels. However, a strong electromagnetic interference disrupts its system. They decide to follow the source of the disturbance, but the AI accidentally plays a loud video. Kai rushes to silence it, but it's too late. The monster attacks. Kai dodges, but Reef is tackled. The creature lunges at Kai, biting his arm, giving him a chance to strike it with his axe, killing it. As the roar echoes through the cave, Kai follows a glow and finds his original body lying next to Oleander's. Overwhelmed, he covers Oleander's face and suffocates him out of mercy, killing his beast as well. Kai should do the same to his own body, but he can't. Instead, he retrieves his prosthetic leg and resumes searching for Terran with Reef. Eventually, they reach the location where Reef last detected Terran's heartbeat. Kai deduces that something launched from this spot, meaning she managed to escape. Suddenly, Reef's screen begins failing, and Kai realizes his prosthetic leg is the cause. Checking inside, he discovers a pulse grenade, because he never intended to retrieve him. At that moment, the mysterious lights in the sky start crashing to the ground. Kai rushes to investigate and is shocked to find that the escape pods are falling, despite having left 3 years ago. Reef reveals classified information. This moon is part of a time dilation experiment. Time moves faster here, allowing for the rapid production of weapons and soldiers. While years pass on the moon, only minutes elapse outside. A ship approaches and Kai readies the research probe. Hatch arrives with a guard, having received Kai's messages. Though only 20 minutes passed for Hatch, years have gone by for Kai. Realizing Hatch shot down the arrowhead and the escape pods to build his own army, Kai claims the data is in the shuttle. Hatch sees through the lie and knocks him out. When Kai awakens, he's chained up in the shuttle and sees that Hatch has captured Terran. Hatch threatens to kill her, forcing Kai to reveal that the data is hidden inside the research probe. Hatch retrieves the probe and activates the grenade in Kai's leg. But Kai had anticipated this and placed the grenade inside the probe instead, causing it to explode. Kai's body begins glowing, and he fully transforms into his monstrous form. The guard tries to shoot him, but Terran intervenes. As Kai nears her, Reef calls out, grounding him. The creature bursts out, covered in blood, and destroys Reef, just as Terran emerges, revealing the blood belonged to the guard. With gentle words, Terran reassures Kai that he can control the transformation. Slowly, he reverts to human form. As they grieve for Reef, a heavily wounded Hatch appears, shooting Kai before stabbing him. Summoning his monstrous strength, Kai grabs Hatch by the neck, allowing a creature limb to strike him down. With Reef reactivated, Kai and Terran escape in Hatch's ship. Meanwhile, near Hatch's lifeless body, a roar echoes in the darkness. Thank you for watching. Make sure to hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an exciting story. More thrilling recaps are on the way, and you won't want to miss them. Drop a comment below and let me know your favorite moment from this story. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Stay tuned, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one. Movie Recap Time Team.